Here's a rewritten version of the story as one continuous, flowing narrative with no headings, no section breaks, no bullet points, and no expansions. Just the core tale told straight through in a natural, uninterrupted voice. I came home 2 weeks early from a business trip in Europe and found a white BMW parked in my driveway at 11 p.m. The house was blazing with lights, music floated out of the living room, and someone was singing off-key in my master bathroom. The moment I opened the front door, the smell hit me. Expensive floral perfume that had been drifting through every HOA board meeting for months. It belonged to Veronica Whitfield, our neighborhood president. My name is Marcus. I'm 47, and 6 months earlier I had inherited my Aunt Dolores's 4,200 square foot colonial mansion in Millbrook Estates, a place where lawns are trimmed with rulers and neighbors speak in passive-aggressive notes. The house was paid off, worth about $850,000, and after an ugly divorce had left me financially gutted, it felt like winning the lottery and getting struck by lightning at the same time. Veronica had hated me from day one. She showed up the week I moved in with a clipboard and a citation because my aunt's classic black mailbox violated the HOA's mandated forest green palette. She fined me for trash cans visible after 6 p.m., for my teenage son Tyler's friends parking on the public street, for 3 Amazon boxes that supposedly turned my home office into a commercial warehouse. Longtime residents did the same things without a single ticket. I was the new guy divorced in the big inherited house she could never afford, and she made sure I knew it. When I left for a 3-week trip, I only told my neighbor Beth and Tyler. Somehow Veronica found out. The night before I flew out, she appeared on my porch and offered to keep an eye on things. I declined. 2 weeks later, I came back early. The London conference had wrapped ahead of schedule, and I was dreaming of my own bed. Instead, I found her car, her perfume, takeout containers on my granite counters, dirty wine glasses from my cellar in the sink, unfamiliar clothes on my bedroom chair, her blood pressure pills on the bathroom counter, and the sound of her singing in my shower. I crept through the house like a burglar, filming everything with my phone. Years of cybersecurity consulting had taught me to document first and feel later. I called her name from the hallway. The singing stopped. She emerged wrapped in my bathrobe, wet hair dripping on my floors, and tried to claim she was protecting the property during a supposed break-in scare. When I pointed at the empty $200 Bordeaux bottle, she insisted she had emergency HOA authority over vacant homes. She marched to my office and produced a folder with an emergency caretaker agreement bearing what looked like my signature. The forgery was clumsy, wrong pen pressure, odd spacing, a flourish on the M I never use. I told her I analyze forged documents for a living. Then a toilet flushed in the guest bath, and Dave Kowalski walked out in full police uniform. Dave, the married father of 3 who coaches Little League, who always seemed decent at barbecues. He asked if everything was okay. The picture snapped into focus. This wasn't just trespassing, it was coordinated fraud with law enforcement cover. Dave said Veronica told him I had given her permission to house sit. I reminded him he was standing in my home, off-duty, but in uniform, next to a woman who had been living here illegally, and that I was recording. His hand drifted away from his service weapon. Veronica's face went the color of old mayonnaise. The next morning, I changed every lock and started treating the house like a crime scene. Tools in the garage had been used and misplaced. Oil stains showed a second car had been parked there. The workbench looked like a staging area for projects that weren't mine. Beth came over with a casserole and the gossip I needed. Veronica had told everyone I was subletting to her because the divorce left me broke. She had hosted a catered dinner party for 8 people in my dining room the week before, showing off the place like it was hers. My professionally installed security system had been surgically bypassed. Not cut wires, but expertly disabled. Veronica fired back fast. An HOA notice summoned me to an emergency board meeting with 24 hours notice, charging me with disturbing the peace, harassment, and threatening behavior toward community officials. The boardroom smelled like industrial carpet and defeat. 3 of the 5 members were her real estate clients. 1 was her cousin Janet, and only old Gladys Pembroke looked capable of independent thought. They read a statement from Dave claiming I had been aggressive and erratic when I burst in on a volunteer protecting my property. I asked for the bylaw that gave her authority to occupy member homes. Paper shuffling. Silence. They voted 4-1 to fine me $1,500 and impose the $500 monthly monitoring fee. Gladys was the only no. Gladys caught me in the parking lot afterward and whispered that Veronica had done this before, targeted vacant houses, driven owners away rather than fight. I hired Sarah Morgan, a property lawyer who specialized in HOA abuse. Within 15 minutes, she confirmed the emergency caretaker power did not exist in our bylaws. No board vote, no resolution, nothing. Veronica had been collecting similar monitoring fees from other owners for 3 years with zero legal basis. She was running a protection racket dressed up as community service. While Sarah built the case, Veronica escalated. Anonymous tips to the building inspector about my unpermitted home office. Complaints to the city about zoning violations. Whisper campaigns on Nextdoor calling me a tax evader, hiding assets from my divorce. Patrol cars started cruising my street like they were looking for something. My son Tyler came home asking why neighbors thought I was in trouble. Then I recovered the digital evidence that changed everything. My security footage showed 10 days of Veronica coming and going like she owned the place, bringing guests, hosting parties, giving real estate tours of my house, photographing every room with professional lighting. She had tried to log into my computer and access my financials. The attempts failed, but her phone's MAC address was stamped all over my Wi-Fi logs. Hidden in temporary files were traces of her scanning my documents. Sarah's words were simple. We're going to destroy her in court. Beth, who turned out to have a background in forensic accounting, helped trace HOA funds. Fake invoices for roof repairs that never happened, tree removals for trees still standing, checks deposited into Whitfield Property Solutions, LLC, an entity that existed only on paper and in Veronica's account. We found her business plan. Use vacant luxury homes as showcase properties to impress high-end clients. Split profits with a company called Elite Estates Management. My house was her biggest target yet. There was even a draft purchase agreement for my property at $200,000 below market, ready to push through some fabricated emergency lien. We organized. A coffee meeting at Beth's turned into a homeowner's rights session at the library. 23 people showed up. 18 had been victimized over 4 years. Fraudulent landscaping fees, pressured real estate deals, endless selective citations. We built a secure group chat, collected evidence templates, and got the FBI's Financial Crimes Division interested in the mail fraud angle. Sarah filed to freeze Veronica's assets. I started attending every board meeting with polite, relentless questions about receipts and bidding processes. Veronica's composure cracked with each one. She tried a restraining order, claiming I was stalking her. Sarah brought security footage, credit card receipts, and board meeting audio proving I had never been near her house. The judge denied it and warned Veronica about false claims. Then came the fake complaints to my clients, negative online reviews, a call to Tyler's school alleging neglect, even a child services visit that backfired when a worker praised our home and commended my son's maturity. Veronica's last move was to claim the HOA financial records had crashed and been lost days before a court-ordered audit. My data recovery contact pulled back 87% of the files, including browser history, showing she had researched permanent deletion right before the supposed crash. The recovered data included email drafts bragging about the scheme and worrying about that cybersecurity guy who thinks he's so smart. At the next emergency meeting, she tried to ram through a $15,000 per household assessment to cover legal expenses caused by Marcus Reed's harassment. 43 homeowners packed the room. Gladys moved to remove Veronica for financial misconduct. The vote was 4-1. Minutes later, Janet was voted off too. As Veronica gathered her things, FBI agent Maria Santos walked in with an arrest warrant for mail fraud, conspiracy, and wire fraud. Handcuffs clicked. Veronica pointed at me and shouted that I had destroyed the community with lies. No one spoke. She pleaded guilty to avoid a trial that would expose more victims. 18 months in federal prison, 3 years probation, $127,000 in restitution, real estate license revoked, banned from HOA boards. Dave got 6 months, lost his pension, barred from law enforcement. The civil suit settled for $45,000, which seeded the Millbrook Estates Good Neighbor Fund for families in hardship. We elected a new board. I somehow ended up treasurer. Monthly financial reports, open bidding, quarterly town halls. Property values rose. Beth started annual rights workshops. We created a legal defense scholarship that has already recovered over $30,000 for families fighting similar abuse. The annual block party now draws over 100 people, including families Veronica targeted in other communities. My house feels like home again. Tyler and I host barbecues. Kids play on the swing set where Veronica used to park her BMW. Neighbors who were once strangers are now friends. Aunt Dolores always said the house was meant to bring people together. She was right, just not the way any of us expected. If your HOA has ever pulled something shady, you're not as powerless as they want you to think. Documentation beats intimidation every time.